I'll never forget the moment he looked at me with that smirk, the kind of smirk that said he thought he had me all figured out. To him, I was just a fragile old woman, the kind people ignore in grocery store lines, the kind who fumbles with change or forgets her keys. He thought I was harmless. He thought I was helpless. That was his first mistake. My name is Margaret, and I've spent 74 years on this earth, raising kids, working 2 jobs, surviving a husband who died too young, and building a life, brick by brick, helpless. That word doesn't exist in my dictionary, but I didn't let him know that right away. No, I let him think he was winning. I let him believe I was easy prey. And that's exactly how I set the trap that would eventually ruin him. It all started one chilly October evening when I noticed strange things happening around my house, small at first, like my back gate swinging open when I knew I'd latched it, or the sound of footsteps on gravel when no one was supposed to be there. I told myself I was being paranoid, but deep down I knew better. Then one night, I caught him. I woke up to the faint creak of a floorboard in my hallway, the kind that only groans when someone is trying too hard to move quietly. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, ears straining. The shadow on the wall told me everything. I wasn't alone. Instead of panicking, I grabbed the old baseball bat my late husband kept under the bed. My palms were sweaty, my throat dry, but I forced myself to stay calm. As I stepped into the hallway, I saw him, a young man, no older than 30, rifling through the cabinet where I kept my silver. He didn't notice me at first, too busy stuffing his pockets, but when he turned and saw me, he laughed. He actually laughed, like I was some joke, some fragile relic, standing in the way of his payday. "Go back to bed, Grandma," he sneered. "This isn't your fight." That's when I realized he thought I was helpless. And in that moment, I decided he had no idea what kind of storm he'd just walked into. I wish I could tell you he was just some stranger, some random thief who picked the wrong house, but life's crueler than that. When the light from the hallway lamp hit his face, my stomach dropped. I knew him. His name was Eric, my grandson's so-called best friend. He'd been to my house plenty of times, eating my food, calling me Grandma like it meant something. I'd welcomed him in because my grandson trusted him, and now here he was, treating me like easy prey. That betrayal cut deeper than any knife. I froze for a second, not because I was scared of him, but because I was shocked at how casual he was about it, like robbing me was just another item on his to-do list. "Eric," I whispered. He grinned like it was a game. "Didn't think you'd recognize me in the dark, old lady. Don't take it personally, just need what you've got." My chest burned with anger, but I kept my voice steady. "You think I don't know what you're doing? You think I won't stop you?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "You can't stop me. What are you gonna do? Call the cops? By the time they get here, I'll be gone. And besides, who are they gonna believe? Some frail grandma who probably forgets her own phone number, or me?" The words stung, not because they were true, but because I knew that's how he saw me, powerless, invisible, disposable. For a moment, I felt the weight of it pressing down, the unfairness of being written off just because of my age. My hands trembled, but not from fear. Age was boiling up inside me. Still, I lowered the bat, pretending to be intimidated, because I needed him to underestimate me just a little longer. He pushed past me, brushing my shoulder like I was nothing, and I let him walk out the door with my silver tucked under his jacket. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst, but I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't call anyone right away. Instead, I made myself a promise, right then and there. If Eric thought he could rob me blind and laugh in my face, he was about to learn that Grandma Margaret wasn't the kind of woman you crossed. He thought this was over. He thought I'd roll over and take it. But I wasn't done, not by a long shot. The minute that door shut behind Eric, I sat down in my old recliner, staring at the space where he'd just stood. Most people would have picked up the phone, called the police, and prayed for justice. But I've lived long enough to know justice doesn't always come wrapped in a shiny badge. Cops take reports, they file papers, they tell you they'll look into it. Meanwhile, punks like Eric keep walking free. No, this was personal. This was about dignity, about sending a message that I wasn't the weak old woman he thought I was. So instead of dialing 911, I reached for my little black notebook. I started writing times, dates, everything I remembered about Eric, where he worked part-time, the car he drove, the little habits he had when he visited, like how he always bragged about knowing shortcuts around town. Information is power, And I wasn't about to fight him with fisty, was going to fight him with his own patterns. Over the next few days, I played the part of the scared, fragile grandma. I told my neighbors I wasn't feeling well, let word slip that I was too tired to cook, even asked one of the ladies at church to pray for my strength. I wanted Eric to think I was weaker than ever, like a sitting duck waiting for him to come back, and oh, he did. Thieves are greedy, they never stop at one bite. But this time, I was ready. I had the lights rigged, cameras hidden behind the picture frames, and the spare key he thought he had secretly kept, switched. When he slid through my back door that Friday night, smirking like he owned the place, he didn't notice the faint, red light blinking in the corner. He didn't notice the tripwire I set with fishing line near the hallway, but I noticed him, every move, every smug little glance. And as he reached for my jewelry box, thinking I was asleep in the other room, I stepped out of the shadows with my phone in hand, streaming everything live to the neighborhood watch group. His face went white as snow. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. But I didn't flinch. My voice was calm. "Even you thought I was helpless, Eric. You thought I'd just let you walk all over me. But tonight, you walked into my trap." His eyes darted to the door, but it was too late. My plan had only just begun. The look on Eric's face was priceless, half panic, half disbelief, like he was trying to figure out how a helpless old lady had just flipped the script on him. He made a lunge for the door, but when his foot hit that fishing line, the sound of him crashing to the floor echoed through the whole house. I almost laughed, but I kept my focus. He scrambled up, cursing under his breath, and that's when he saw the blinking red lights he'd ignored before. "Are you filming me?" he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "Not just filming," I said, holding my phone steady. "Streaming. Everyone's watching. The whole neighborhood knows exactly what you're doing right now." His face drained of color as he realized this wasn't just between me and him anymore, it was public. He tried to play it off, stammering about how I'd invited him over, but his voice was shaking too much to sound convincing. And I wasn't done yet. I pointed toward the kitchen, where I'd laid out the stolen silver pieces he'd taken the first time, every item tagged and photographed. "Recognize these?" I asked. He froze. "See, Eric, I knew you'd come back. Thieves always do, so I made sure to have a little evidence ready for when you did." His bravado was cracking. He wasn't the cocky punk smirking in the shadows anymore. He was a rat caught in the light. "Listen, Grandma, we can work something out," he stammered. "You don't want to ruin my life." That line almost made me laugh. Ruin his life. He'd waltzed into my home, stolen from me, mocked me to my face, and thought I'd just sit back knitting scarves while he cashed in my memories. No, tonight wasn't about ruining his life. It was about saving mine, about proving to myself, to him, and to anyone watching that I was not someone to be pitied or dismissed. So I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "Eric, you made a choice when you decided I was easy prey, and now, you're going to live with the consequences." He glanced at the door again, but he knew he couldn't outrun the cameras, the evidence, or the story spreading through the neighborhood group chat. For the first time, he looked at me not as a weak old woman, but as someone who had outsmarted him at his own game. And I could see the fear in his eyes. Eric stood there frozen, trying to figure out how to spin this. But every second that passed made him look more guilty. I could see his brain scrambling for an exit, a lie, anything that would give him the upper hand again. But I wasn't giving him a single inch. "You know what's funny?" I said, walking over to the coffee table. I picked up a small folder and dropped it in front of him. His eyes darted down, and I saw the panic flare. Inside were printed screenshots, photos from my hidden cameras from his first break-in, time-stamped, crystal clear. "You thought you were slick the first time, didn't you? Thought I was too blind, too slow, too old to notice what you took." But I noticed. I always notice. His mouth opened, then closed again. For once, he didn't have a smart remark. He reached for the folder, but I slapped my hand down on it before he could touch it. "Don't," I snapped. "You don't get to touch what doesn't belong to you. That's what got you here in the first place." He stepped back like I'd burned him, and I could see his confidence crumbling, piece by piece. That's when I played my next card. I tapped the screen of my phone, showing him the live comments rolling in from the neighborhood group. "You see, Eric, you thought nobody cared. But look, Mrs. Thompson across the street just posted that she called the police, and Mr. Delgado says he's already on his way over with his 2 sons. You didn't just pick the wrong house, you picked the wrong grandma in the wrong neighborhood. His breathing grew shallow, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. He whispered, "Please, just delete it. I'll pay you back, I swear." I tilted my head, pretending to think it over, but the truth was, I'd already decided. This wasn't just about the silver or the jewelry. This was about showing him, showing everyone, that I wasn't invisible, that I had teeth. I leaned in close enough that he could see the fire in my eyes. "Eric, you made me feel small. You made me feel powerless in my own home. Tonight, I'm making sure you never forget who I really am." He swallowed hard, and for the first time since I'd known him, Eric looked genuinely afraid. And that was exactly how I wanted it. Eric's voice cracked as he backed toward the wall, his palms raised like he was staring down a firing squad. "Please, Grandma, you don't understand. I was desperate. I didn't mean to hurt you. His excuses tumbled out in a panicked rush, but I didn't buy a single word. Desperation doesn't make you smirk while you steal from someone who fed you, who trusted you. Desperation doesn't make you laugh in an old woman's face. No, this was arrogance. And now, the mask had finally slipped. "Save it," I said flatly, my voice sharper than I expected. "You weren't desperate, you were careless. And you thought I wouldn't fight back. That was your mistake." He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands, but I didn't soften. If anything, his pitiful act fueled me. I reached over to the mantel and grabbed the jewelry box he'd been pawing at minutes earlier. I opened it slowly, deliberately, pulling out a necklace that had belonged to my mother. "You see this? This isn't just jewelry. It's history, it's memory. And you were ready to pawn it off for beer money." I tossed it onto the table in front of him, and he flinched like it was a weapon. The comments on my phone were blowing up, neighbors calling him scum, others cheering me on, some even saying they were on their way to watch him get hauled off. Eric's eyes flicked to the phone and then back to me. He looked like he might cry. "Please, don't let them see me like this. Don't let them call the cops. I'll do anything." That was the moment I knew I had him. He wasn't scared of losing money. He wasn't scared of me. Not really. He was terrified of shame, of being exposed, of everyone in town knowing he got outsmarted by the helpless grandma he'd mocked. So I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "Anything. Then listen closely, because you're about to make this right and you're going to do it my way." His head snapped up, eyes wide, but I didn't blink. For once, I had all the power, and I wasn't about to waste it. Eric sat there trembling, his face pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. When I said my way, he nodded so fast you'd think I'd offered him a lifeline. But what he didn't realize was that my way wasn't going to be quiet, or easy, or forgettable. I wanted him to feel what I'd felt, small, powerless, humiliated in front of the people who mattered. "You're going to confess," I told him, crossing my arms. "Right here, right now, on camera." His eyes went wide. "What? No, no way. I can't." "You can." I cut him off, "because if you don't, I'll hit send, and this whole video goes to the police and your boss at the auto shop. You'll be out of work before sunrise." His jaw clenched, but the fight in his eyes was gone. He knew I wasn't bluffing. Slowly, reluctantly, he reached for the phone. I switched the camera to face him, the live stream still rolling. The comments section went silent for a moment, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. "Say it," I commanded. His lips trembled, his voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Eric, and I broke into Margaret's house. I stole from her. I lied to her. I thought she was weak." His shoulders slumped, as if every word weighed 100 pounds. I leaned forward, louder. His voice cracked, but he repeated it, louder this time, his shame echoing off the walls. The comments started flying again, people calling him a disgrace, some saying they'd never let him near their families again. He buried his face in his hands, but I didn't let up. "Now, apologize," I said. He looked at me, his eyes red with rage and humiliation, but he choked it out anyway. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I was wrong." It wasn't enough to fix the betrayal, but it was enough to strip him of the cocky grin he'd once worn in my house. For the first time, Eric wasn't just caught, he was owned, and I could see it in his eyes. He would never forget this night. By the time Eric mumbled his pitiful apology, the neighborhood watch chat was blowing up so fast my phone nearly froze. People weren't just watching anymore, they were enraged. "Mrs. Thompson wrote, 'Police are 2 blocks away. Keep him there.' Mr. Delgado chimed in. Front yard lights are on. Boys are ready. Even my grandson, the one Eric had pretended to befriend, sent a message. On my way. Don't let him leave. Eric's eyes darted across the screen, his breathing quick and shallow as he realized the net was tightening. He wasn't up against just me anymore. He was up against the whole community. Every porch light on the block flicked on like a row of spotlights, illuminating his guilt. He bolted for the door, but when he yanked it open, Delgado's 2 sons were already standing there, arms crossed, blocking his escape. The humiliation deepened as he stumbled back inside like a cornered rat. They're all watching, I told him softly, almost kindly, but with a bite in my tone. Every lie you told, every smirk, every ounce of arrogance, it's gone now. They see you for what you are. He collapsed onto the floor, muttering curses under his breath. But I wasn't fazed. For years, men like him, young, cocky, dismissive, had looked at women like me as easy targets. Tonight, I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was making an example. Red and blue lights started flashing outside the window, painting his pale face in streaks of guilt. The sirens grew louder, closer, until they stopped right in front of my house. He shook his head violently, whispering, "No, no, no," like a child begging not to be caught, but it was too late. I leaned down, just inches from his ear, and whispered the words I knew would haunt him forever. "Helpless. You'll wish one had been." Then I stood tall, waiting as the heavy knock of the police rattled the front door. The cops hauled Eric out of my living room in handcuffs. His head hung low as the neighbors stood outside in their pajamas, arms folded, faces lit by porch lights and phone cameras. The same boy who strutted around this neighborhood like he owned it was now being shoved into the back of a cruiser, his name and shame plastered across every group chat in town. I stood at the doorway, the cool night air brushing against my face, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small or fragile. I felt powerful. The officers asked if I wanted to press charges, and I didn't hesitate. Every single one, I told them. Eric looked back at me from the car, eyes wide with a mix of fear and resentment, but I just smiled. He thought he'd broken into the home of an old, defenseless woman. Instead, he had stepped straight into a trap built with wisdom, patience, and a little bit of Texavy. The neighborhood erupted in cheers as the squad car pulled away, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly celebrated, not pitied. Back inside, I poured myself a cup of tea, the house quiet again, except for the distant echo of gossip buzzing through the street. I knew tomorrow morning my name would be on every tongue, the grandma who caught the crook, the grandma who turned helplessness into strength. And I liked that. I'd lived long enough to know the world often underestimates people like me. But Eric's mistake was thinking age equals weakness. He gave me the perfect chance to prove him wrong. As I sat in my favorite chair, steam curling from my mug, I whispered to myself with a smirk, "Helpless. Not tonight. Not ever again."